Blog Talk Radio.
It's time for the Pet Radio Show with your host, Robert Paul Hudson. The show about the pets you love, choosing a new pet, and issues that affect your pet family. Don't go away. The fun is about to begin.
Welcome to the Pet Radio Show. My name is Robert Paul Hudson, and I'm your host. And today we're talking about the San Bernardino City Animal Shelter and the continual problems of neglect that have been documented by Maria Sanchez. And we'll get started with Maria right after this. All right, well, joining us now is Maria Sanchez. Welcome to the Pet Radio Show, Maria.
Thank you, Robert.
Now, you've witnessed some rather disturbing things, to say the least, at the San Bernardino Animal Shelter, and you've photographed and documented it. And before we get into that, just tell us briefly why you're at the shelter in the first place. What is your role there?
Well, I began visiting the San Bernardino City Shelter last September when a couple of people that network the dogs, there's Lois Chisholm, she networks the small breed dogs, and Donna Wall, she networks the large breed dogs and medium dogs, and they saw me taking photographs of the dogs at the divorce shelter, and both of them contacted me separately asking, could you please go, 1 hour a week to this shelter? We have so many dogs that don't even have a photo. We can't network them. So I went there one day to drop off some towels and blankets that I collected, and I took a walk around, and I'm like, okay, I heard so much bad stuff about this shelter. It doesn't look that bad. And I even told the sergeant, Affronti, when I dropped off the donations, that I had heard so much bad stuff about this place, and it didn't look that bad to me. Well, I had just, taken a real quick walk around. So, I let them know, okay, I'll go ahead and start photographing the dogs on my lunch break. So I'd go for a half an hour day, and the supervisor, Ryan Long, he agreed if I took the photos of the dogs that had no photos, that he would upload them to Pet Harbor so that we could network them. And the no photo dogs.
What do you mean by networking them? What does that mean?
Well, when the dog doesn't have a photo, we can't network it for a rescue. We post them on Pet Harbor, or the Pet Harbor photos on Facebook, and we gather pledges. There's offers for people to foster them. Rescues can see what dogs are available to rescue, and it's no longer just people going into the shelter to see what dogs are there. It's all over Facebook. There's people from Australia, from the United Kingdom, Canada, all over the world that donate money for these dogs at this shelter to be rescued. And if the dog is sitting at the shelter with no photo, it has zero chance to be rescued. And the dogs that they weren't photographing were the dogs that were injured, any type of sickness, if the dog was considered aggressive, if the dog was fearful, or if it was on a control stick, they would take no photo. So I would go in, take the photo, email it to them, and they'd upload it to Pet Harbor, and we would be able to network the dogs. So that's how I got started even at the shelter. It wasn't until I actually would go there every day and started noticing all of these violations, like dogs having no water, sick dogs sitting in their kennel with no treatment. And the very first, and I wouldn't really say anything to the shelter at the beginning. I would just kind of document it and send myself emails about what I was seeing. And the first time that I actually brought it up to them was a dog that had sat in the kennel for 6 days with a rope embedded in her neck. Nobody saw it, not the kennel staff, not the supervisor, that's also the RVT that goes around and is supposed to check on the dogs. Not even the intake officer or the intake staff saw the rope 6 days she sat in that kennel before I even saw it when I first visited with her. And so I let them know the rope was in her neck. I called back for 2 hours to check on the dog to make sure that they had taken care of. They didn't do anything for 2 hours. It wasn't until my third phone call they said, okay, yes, Ryan took it back and cleaned it. She should have been sent to the vet. It was an open wound. But he just took the rope out, cleaned it up, and put her back in the kennel with her kennel mate, which was her mother. And after I had posted the photo of the dog with the embedded neck, that was Friday night. Saturday morning, I received an email from Ryan Long, the kennel staff supervisor, that my videos were derogatory nature in it. It lowered the staff morale, posting things that, like the embedded rope, and that I was no longer welcome at the shelter, and for me not to return until he had a chance to talk with his supervisors. And I just kind of laughed it off, and I showed up as usual on Saturday morning to take my photos, and he came up to me. He's like, did you not get my email? I said, oh, of course I did. The one that said I shouldn't come here until you have a chance to speak to your supervisors? He said, yes. I said, of course I got it, Ryan. I said, but unfortunately, I'm a member of the public. This is a public facility, and so you can't tell me that I can't come here. And he said, sure, and he walked away. And after that, they stopped uploading my photos to Pet Harbor. Any type of question that I would ask about the dog that would help me network the dog, all of a sudden, kennel staff became stupid. They didn't know anything about the dog, nothing, when before they would be helpful and, let me know anything that happened with the dog that would help get it, oh, we found this one tied to a pole at a school, or this one was beaten. Those type of things, gets the dog saved. And so basically that was my first kind of slap in the face when I posted that photo. And then that was where this all just went out of proportion. And now...
And this was back in January? Is that when this happened?
Yes.
Okay. And from that point, that's where everything just kind of became a firestorm on the internet, I guess, with the local rescue community and people following along, and it just kind of exploded from there, I guess, right?
Yeah, because before that, I kind of just kept all the stuff that I had to myself. I didn't post it online because I didn't really see anything. It wasn't until that embedded rope, and then I noticed how long it took for them to actually treat the dog, and the fact that the dog wasn't even treated. And the way that the supervisor, Ryan Long, responded to me, I realized, okay, I need to start exposing this place. Anything I find, it's all fair game. He already told me he's not going to upload my photos to Pet Harbor. Nobody's helping me, so I have nothing to lose. So basically, I just started emailing anything that I found to all the attorneys that were looking into the situation, as well as the mayor, all the city council members, chief of police, Captain King at the police department, Sergeant Frenzy, anyone that had anything to do with being the shelter, I would email. For months went by and not one response and no change. So finally I went and I looked up the email addresses for the other 4 cities. And sorry, my son doesn't like my dog doesn't like my son. He just walked in the room. So I Googled, well, I should say San Bernardino City Shelter houses for San Bernardino, Fontana, Grand Terrace, Loma Linda, and Colton. So I looked up the mayor, the city council, the city managers, all of the city officials for all 4 of those other cities. And then I began emailing them as well. I said, you're going to begin seeing emails from me probably daily on the violations at this shelter. And the reason is you have a vested interest in these animals. You're paying a contract every year for these dogs to be cared for, and it's not happening. I never received a response from, or even a reply or anything from any of the city officials for those 4 cities. And so, I just was getting very frustrated because I wasn't getting any, it seemed like nobody cared what was going on. But I just continued. Every night I would email what I saw at, the day during my visit. And it, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. I apologize.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe we cut out there for. But,
no.
That's okay. Now, can you tell us before you go on further of the just the complete lack of response you got from everybody? Can you tell us more about some of the other things you saw there since the incident with the dog with the embedded collar, that which that in of itself really is rather shocking to see in a shelter, to see a dog sit for so long with a collar that's just deeply embedded into his neck. I mean, that's just disgusting.
It wasn't even a collar either. You know what it was? It was
okay.
It was a rope. It was a piece of like a nylon rope.
Now, did it come in? Did it come into the shelter that way? I mean, it didn't become. It wasn't embedded.
You can see.
Go ahead.
You can see in the dog's intake photo. You can see the frayed blue rope on the side of the neck. So you know that when that dog came into the shelter, she had that rope on her neck. So it's not like they can say, well, we didn't know, or it wasn't there when we did the intake, because how else would she have gotten it? It was there before she entered the shelter.
Yeah, it actually takes a long time, quite a long period of time for something to become embedded into the skin like that. So I mean, it had to have. Do you know anything about how the dog got to the shelter? What the circumstances were? How it came to show up there?
Yeah, she was brought in as a stray by an officer. I was told by the sergeant that the reason the rope was on her neck in the first place was because the officer who brought her in didn't have a second collar and leash to bring him in. So he put kind of like a slip, it was like a slip leash, a nylon slip leash on her and tied it and used that to bring her in. And so rather than cutting it off upon intake, they just left it on her. And I don't know if she was
Wait a minute.
messing with it.
You're telling me that the rope wasn't put on the dog's neck by its former owner. It wasn't a case of abuse in that sense, but it was actually put on by the animal control officer?
Yes, that's what Sergeant told me. And
wow.
Instead of cutting it off when they brought her in, I'm just speculating. I'm thinking she was probably pulling on it, trying to get it off, because the whole rope was frayed at the point when I saw it, and it was dug in her neck pretty deeply. And so it was as simple as cutting the rope off, and none of this would have ever happened. And after, sitting there for maybe the second day, the third day, fourth day, possibly fifth day, the RVT, Ryan Long, should have seen something was wrong with her neck if he was doing his job as far as going around and checking on the dog, which he gets paid for. But the fact that I'm the one who had to see it, and I told him, I said, I don't get paid to deal with stuff like that. I'm here on my lunch break, and I'm not expecting to see something that vile. I mean, it was really deep. And it could have been seen by a child. Anybody could have, found it.
Now, since this happened, you said some months went by while, because this happened back in January, and so some months went by while you were still taking photographs of the dogs every time you went in there and so forth. What other instances did you see? What other cases of neglect did you see over that period of time? You said that it get any better, or nothing really changed. So, what was was the embedded collar the worst thing you ever saw, or were there other things that appalled you just as much as that did?
No, there were other things that happened. Say, for instance, there was a dog that was sitting in the kennel, sick, completely sick. And when I asked what was going on with this dog, I guess they were waiting for, he had a chip and they were waiting for his owner. And he sat in their kennel for so long, just getting sick and sick and sick. And he wasn't even on Pet Harbor, first of all, because I think he was aggressive, or I'm not sure exactly what he was labeled as, but he wasn't on Pet Harbor to begin with, in order for us to network him. So finally, I went and I asked one of the kennel staff that I trust, can you ask them to treat this dog? He's extremely sick. And she took him back. I said, insert any possible way that you can get a photo of him so that we can start networking him. And so she went ahead and took a photo, and when she went in the back to give him his vaccines, because he never was vaccinated, because I guess the person who did the intake was afraid of him, she scanned him for a chip. And I think that's what it was. She scanned him for a chip. He'd already been there for 7 days, and she found a chip on him. So they contacted the owner. The owner never came, and he had to stay there an additional 10 days sick with no treatment. And finally, on the 17th day, he was allowed to be pulled by a rescue on his deathbed. And this was before I was really coming across dogs that were completely ill. This was, my main concern was going in there, taking photos. The dogs had no photo. I would focus on that. And so that was really my first encounter of a dog that was sitting in his kennel, rotting away, sick. Wow. And the next thing I can remember as far back is I took a video of 5 puppies, and these puppies were happy, playful. They were completely excited to eat treats. That was when I was still able to get treats to the dogs. They were not sick at all. Their kennel was completely dry. There was no vomiting, no diarrhea, nothing on the floor. After an hour and 20 minutes after I took that video, those dogs fell off Pet Harbor, and when I called back to find out what happened to them, they said that they were no longer available. Well, since back then they weren't giving the outcome of the dog, I knew, okay, these dogs weren't available for rescue because they were still on stray hold. They killed those puppies, and the reason they gave was because they had parvo. And those puppies, I did a post about them, and people saw this, and they saw those puppies were happy. There was nothing even displaying that those puppies were sick. And when asked to do an investigation on it, since the police department was doing the investigation, of course it came back that they believe that those dogs had parvo, and the shelter was right in putting the dogs down. Well, since then, now they have parvo tests that they must test for parvo before they can just put the dogs to sleep. Whether they're using them, that's another story, or even if they have them in stock right now, because they run out of vaccines, they run out of microchips, and their excuse is, hey, we have no money. But since they get to have a contract with the 4 other cities, they're obviously getting paid for all of this stuff. Sorry if I'm jumping ahead.
That's all right. That's all right. Wow. So you think that they were just euthanized to make room or for whatever reason, but not because they were really sick. That you didn't see any evidence that the dog.
No, they weren't sick. And the captain actually told me that the reason they had to put those dogs down was because they were sick, and they didn't that the video that I had taken an hour before that, they had just cleaned up the puke and the diarrhea, and that is why the kennel was clean. Okay, so tell me this. If those puppies, and they were in kennel 120, all in 121 is like, there's nothing separating, except for like a wall. It's all above is open, all next, to the gates is open, maybe 6 inches separating the noses. Why didn't they remove those puppies from the kennel and put them back in a medical kennel, or put them down if they suspected that they had parvo? Why clean up the mess and then just leave them in the kennel, subject the rest of the dogs to parvo? So that's where they contradicted themselves, saying that the video I took of the dogs happy and that I didn't see an hour before where they just cleaned up all of the mess.
Oh.
So it's things like this that I get from the captain, that he's fed by the supervisor, Ryan Long, and he believes everything that he says. He doesn't do his own investigation. He just believes everything he's fed, and that's where most of the problems are happening.
And we should point out to our listeners, if it hasn't been made clear already, that this is a city shelter that is actually run by the police department, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Of a bankrupt city.
Now, I seem to remember reading on the internet somewhere that there was also another instance where there was a dog that had testicles that were where they appeared. Yeah, they appeared to be burned or something. I don't know what does necrotic mean. I don't.
Dead tissue.
Oh.
Yeah, it actually. He actually had a severe skin infection down there, and it was on some other portions of his body. He had to be shaved down completely and given a medicated bath at the vet, and then the vet sent them home with like medicated spray and 2 different medications. Well, the treatment he was giving, the shelter was giving, was ointment, and I'm sure that you saw the picture of the testicles. Clearly, ointment was not a treatment, a correct treatment for this. And when I sent out a plea asking Captain King, I said, hey, I met this dog today. I asked them to send the dog to the vet. They said no, that the dog was getting ointment. I sent it to Chief Handy. And when I didn't get a response, I said, okay, Chief Handy, I have a 501c3 rescue willing to pick up this dog tomorrow. Will you please ask the shelter to release it so that it can get the medication that it needs? And I never got a response. So then I send another email. Finally, I get a response at about 8:30 at night from Captain King saying, hey, Maria, the kennel staff observed the Yorkie's infection. They pulled it from the kennel, began treatment. The staff went ahead and took the Yorkie to the vet. So the staff never refused medical treatment, because that was my whole point of my email, was saying your staff is refusing medical treatment. It's not to be a tattletale that I'm sending these emails. It's so that he can do his job and get on them and say, hey, what's going on? Why isn't this dog getting medical treatment? I have this email from Maria. She's saying you didn't treat this dog. So I go on Tuesday, and a rescue gets the dog, and I get the vet paperwork that shows that this dog was not treated until 11:05 on Sunday, when Captain King sends me an email saying, no, my staff didn't refuse medical treatment on Sunday night. So it wasn't until after the vet had already, seen the dog that he replied to me saying that his staff didn't refuse medical treatment. My point and I sent him a couple emails saying, can you please tell me when this dog was seen? If this dog was seen before my initial email to you on Saturday, I'll apologize. I'll retract my statement that because I wasn't just sending it to him. I was sending it to every city official from every city. I was sending it to several members of the media. So I offered to retract my statement that his staff was refusing medical treatment. If he could tell me when that dog was treated. Well, since he didn't respond to any of those emails, I went ahead and told him, thanks for not responding. That wasn't very professional of you, but whatever. I don't need a response because now I see for myself that I was correct when I reported to you the staff refused another animal medical treatment. And so I never got a response from that. He just kind of brushed that away. The only time he ever replies to me in an email is if he thinks that he's going to discredit me. So I was able to follow up to his email trying to discredit me, showing, okay, yes, I was correct at the time when I asked them to have this dog seen, and they refused. I sent you an email. The dog still had not been seen. So this is the main issues, is when I'm sending these things out to these superiors at the police department, occasionally he'll write back and say, let me check into it. Then he'll reply, like say if there's 15 dogs that have no photos. I'll say, Captain King, can you please ask your staff to take these photos? He'll reply, check in an hour, they should have photos. So something that simple I'm getting responses to, but something that has the welfare of an animal, and I'm sending it to him, I'm hoping that he has, the quickness and send a response. I get no response until the next day saying that the vet did see the dog. Well, he didn't ask them, when did this vet see the dog? He's just saying, okay, the dog was treated. Maria's wrong. Let's discredit her in the email. So my big issue right now is that when I send these things out and I'm getting no response, or the response is trying to discredit me, rather than say, Maria, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I've contacted the staff. Fortunately, this dog didn't get seen until Sunday, but it's been taken care of. I mean, be professional, be an adult about it. That's all I'm asking. I have a full-time job. My kids, I have two boys. One is older, but my youngest one, he's in football. I have kids in school that I have to do the functions at school. I have animals that I have to take care of. You think I want to be up till 1:30 in the morning every night sending emails, and then get up in the morning at 7 a.m. and go to work and do this, go on my lunch break, take photos, come home, stay up till 1:30. It just every day. I'm not getting paid for this, but I can't stop doing it. I'm like obsessed because I have OCD. I've been diagnosed with it. So at this point, until something is fixed here, I'm not going away. I'm going to continue sending my emails. I'm going to continue letting them know where their staff is, where they're going wrong. And if they don't like it, fix it. That's the only way that I'm going to go away. Because just last week, I sent out 2 more emails to Captain King and Chief Handy saying, this dog here, I just took this video. Will you please make sure that this dog is seen by a vet? And that's all I can do anymore, is just bring it to their attention.
Okay, Maria, I got to take a commercial break here, but when we come back, we'll talk about some of the things that have gone on. In particular, the city council meeting that I understand you and a group of people attended and presented your case to. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back. So don't go away. At Dermagic, all our natural skincare formulas use only the finest ingredients, including certified. Okay, Maria, tell us about the city council meeting. When does that occur?
That was on September 3rd, I believe.
Oh, so it was just recently.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, not September 3rd. It was August 19th. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's still not that long. Still not that long ago.
August 19th.
Okay. So tell us what yourself and how many other people went there with you in support.
It was myself. It was Andrea Nasis. She does kind of like what I do. She takes photos of the dog after work, and she posts them on her Facebook page and helps them get exposure.
Mm-hmm.
There's LA Michael Levitt. He's from LA, and he's on my email list showing, I send out every night showing all the different violations and mistreatment of the animals, and he basically wanted to go down there and talk to them and tell them that, and he had a really good speech to them, letting them know that he was from LA, not even from his city, and he's seeing what's going on, and he's just completely fed up with getting the emails from me and begging them to make some type of a change or, look into what's going on. There was a man named Gary. He's adopted a few cats from there that had died because of the Panloop outbreak. There was Kristen Carey Grant, otherwise known as Kona Cat. She networks and rescues almost every cat out of there, but a majority of them end up passing away or, actually having a really gruesome death from the Panloop that's going through the kennels, and most of the dogs or the cats that she rescues don't make it, but she continues to go in there and get them out and try. There was another woman named Lisa Michelle Corona. She was an adopter of a little dog that she had never met. She saw her picture on Facebook. She saw that she had no rescue plans. She saw she had no pledges for any rescues to be interested. And she did an adoption over the phone to this little dog that was in her intake photo, was crouched down, just scared as could be, just the sweetest face. She never met this dog, mind you. She saw one photo. She, once the dog is rescued or adopted over the phone, it's sent to the vet to be spayed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next contact that she gets from anyone after she does the adoption and the dog is sent to the vet is from the vet saying, hey, so we went ahead and spayed your dog, but afterwards we found out that your dog was sodomized by something as big as a cucumber. And, you might want to come get your dog and check this out. So she goes down. She's just horrified by the injuries, and she could not believe that the vet went ahead with the surgery. She's got her whole insides were just mangled from the being sodomized, and then she's subjected to a major surgery, like a spay surgery. And so she asked him, how in the hell why did you still spay my dog? Oh, well, we didn't know that, we didn't see that she was injured. There was so much feces and matting down there. So we didn't see it until afterwards. Okay, Dr. I think it's Wilzinski and staff, how about you, kind of clean up the dog? This is a major surgery that should be sterilized. Why are you doing this to a dog that is clearly matted and has feces? So that's another issue in itself. This General Dog and Cat, they are the contracted vet for this facility. So she went down there to let the city council know that how in the hell did this dog sit in your kennel for 7 days and your staff never noticed that this dog had a humongous open hole in her anus from being sodomized? She didn't know if this happened in the shelter by the sickos that work there, or if it happened before the dog, was brought in as a stray. So that's why she was down there. And I'm hoping I'm not forgetting anybody.
Okay.
Oh, and our our friends Captain King and Chief Handy, they were there too, sitting there, observing everything. I'm not sure if they're at every single council meeting, but I was surprised to see them there. They have time to spend, we were there for like 6-7 hours.
6 or 7 hours?
We got there around 3, and we didn't leave till 9:30.
Oh.
Because afterwards, we were there during the whole council meeting, and then we stayed afterwards, chatted a little bit with some of the council members and the city manager, or I'm sorry, city attorney. So we were there for a long time. I felt like nothing was accomplished going there. One council member, Chaz Kelly, he asked, if there was another, rescue community one that they could look into to take over the shelter, if there's something, that could be done. And they kind of talked about it briefly, and then they just went on. Okay, next speaker. They didn't really get into it because it was public comment at that time. And when I went up there, I pretty much addressed them. I said, hey, I'm sure you've all been getting my emails. Haven't received any responses. Thanks for nothing. And told them, a few things that was going on. And when the city attorney chimed in, he called the shelter a doggy out switch. And when I spoke to him afterwards, he thinks the whole thing just needs to be burned down to the ground because it's disgusting in there. I mean, him himself, he's on our side. He knows. I don't know if he's on our side as far as wanting to make change, but he definitely understands why we're there and what the issues are.
So that's one of the city council members that appears to be supporting you at this point. But the rest of the city council members didn't really give you any impression that it was something that they felt needed to be addressed.
Well, it was at the time, he after the meeting, he handed me his business card, and me not having any experience doing any of this, council meetings or any of this politician stuff, I didn't know what that meant. Well, when I said, one council member gave me his card, that means, that he might be willing to help. Oh, okay. So I gave the number to Lori Wagner. She's pretty much my go-to person. Anytime anyone wants to talk about anything to do with legal or anything, I just refer them to her. And she called to try to get a hold of him and got a message to him. They were going to call him on his cell phone. Well, she never got a call back. So not sure what happened with that. But I do know that we did get a response from on Tuesday, last Tuesday, the 3rd, from one of the council members, Van Johnson. He said that, he visited the shelter the previous week and to observe the conditions, and saying that the other council members have visited as well. He didn't see anything out of order, but that, hey, I don't really have a trained eye for the issues that could be out of the ordinary. He said that he heard all of my complaints and that he was going to be moving forward towards addressing them. And so my response to him was a video of a sick dog that I had videotaped that day. And I said, thank you, Council Member Van Johnson, for your response. I don't have a trained eye either. That I just go with my instincts. When I feel something's not right, I speak up. Here's the dog that I met today at the shelter. He was confiscated. He still has to be there for 2 more days. That means that dog sat there for 12 days in his kennel with 0 treatment. They just when they're confiscated, they throw him in the kennel, throw him some food, maybe fill the water every once in a while, and they don't give any medical treatment. So I said, please ask your staff to make sure that this dog is being sent to the vet. And it's, stuff like that. You don't have to have a trained eye. You just have to have compassion when you see a dog and you see it suffering to speak up. I shouldn't be the only person that when I go in there and I see a dog hacking away or mucus running out of its nose, or just standing there with complete just misery on its face. I shouldn't be the only one bringing it up. Actually, the kennel staff should be saying something to their boss, Ryan Long, the RVT on staff, or RVT should be going day by day in and out of those kennels, checking on each dog. That's his job. Why did that dog sit there, and I've had to tell him something?
What does RVT mean?
Registered Veterinary Technician. And I've actually sent him at one time in an email, that this is the oath that you took as a registered veterinary technician, and it's saying, that he'll whatever. I don't remember what the oath exactly was, but I said, do I have to remind you that this is your job?
You don't hold any punches to these people, do you, Maria?
No, I from very young age, and you ask anyone that knows me, and it's been said, maybe I have diarrhea of the mouth, whatever. If I see something, I'm gonna that's out of the, and it's not just animals. If it was a person, if it was a child, if it was even anything, I just have compassion, and I have concern for things that I see that are out of order.
Right.
And I'm not going to just drive on by and not do anything. I'm going to, if I see a dog on the side of the road, I'm going to stop and try to get it out of the road and find its owner and tell the owner what the hell. Mm-hmm. I actually did that 2 weeks ago.
Now you said the chief of police, Chief Handy, was there at the city council meeting. Did he get up and address the council about this, to say anything about this, and did he talk to you or anyone in your group at all, either during or after the meeting? Not one word. He didn't get up and talk about it. He didn't get up and he didn't speak. I've never met him in person. I've only met Captain King. He never introduced himself to me. He never, he didn't make any steps towards, working with us at all. But what Captain King did was, right before he left the council meeting, because, I spoke about the Yorkie with the non-treatment. Well, Captain King did go up at the end. I saw him go and talk to one of the council members. I believe her name is Wendy. And he told, I'm not sure exactly the conversation that he had, but afterwards when I was speaking with her, she told me, well, Captain King showed me the bill for that dog, and it was quite expensive actually, and he showed me that dog did get treatment. And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't know which dog the bill he showed you for. I said, but that dog did not get treatment. And she told me, oh, well, and the issues about the dogs not having water. I go home, and my own dogs don't have water. They knock it over. Okay, well, you're gone all day. There's kennel staff. That's not your job, I guess, if you want to put it that way, to make sure that your dog has water in his bowl all day while you're at work. Unfortunately, that's what you are paying these people at these kennels to do. Kennel staff is that exactly, kennel staff. They make sure that the dogs don't have crap in their kennels. They make sure that the dogs are not sitting rotting away sick. They bring it to supervisor's attention so that those dogs can get sent to the vet. They make sure that the dog has water. They make sure that the dog is not, fighting. That's what they're paid for. So don't tell me that you come home and your dogs don't have water because they spilled it. Oh, well, these dogs don't have water because they either drank it all, they spilled it, whatever the case. But those people walking around, that's what they're getting paid for, to make sure that those kennels are clean, that those kennels are, the dogs are being, have shelter, food, and water. So your argument there, Miss Wendy, it just went one ear and out the other. And another thing she told me,
well, they're short-staffed. They only have one person to feed and clean all the kennels. I said, excuse me? No. They have 7 kennel staff. I said, and there's only one kennel staff, Shauna, that I constantly see out there cleaning, giving water, caring for the dogs. The rest of the people that I see cleaning and watering the kennels are the community service workers. I said, it's not even kennel staff. I said, they're in the back smoking cigarettes, or they're in Ryan Long's office sitting on his couch bullshitting. I said, and you know her response to me is that, no, the community service workers are only there when the sheriff decides he wants to drop them off. Do you understand? Those community service workers, I see them leaving when I leave. They are either dropped off and picked up by their family members, or they drive themselves there. So whoever is telling this council member that the sheriff has to drop them off in order for them to get the help of those, she's not even doing her due diligence to look into these things. She's just eating up everything that they're feeding her. And that's a problem. And I got this directly from her mouth. So, and I even responded to her in an email. I responded to what she said to me in an email. And, of course, no response. So, yeah, the council members right now, I'm hoping that the email from Van Johnson is sincere, that they indeed are discussing it amongst themselves, and that there will be something going forward, them looking into it. But as of right now, I'm not holding my breath, especially after, the way that the communication that I had with a couple of them afterwards.
So what's your next step? You and the other people that are working with you and helping you. What is your next step? Where do you go from here? Are you just going to continue going there every day and taking pictures, or do you have something else planned to try to bring more attention to this or something?
Oh yeah. I'll still be there every day taking my pictures, but we have retained a legal counsel. We have retained an attorney. We have several people willing to be witnesses to what we are claiming is going on there. We have people that are going to be plaintiffs. It's not just the neglect that is happening at the shelter that is the problem. It's the killing of the dogs unlawfully. When a dog is brought in as an owner surrender, there's times where, the dogs, they're just irresponsible owner, and they're just a dipshit, and they just don't want to deal with their dog anymore. There are times where there are owners that go in there, and they're crying, and they don't want to give up their dog, but they have no other choice. And that's those are called either owner relinquished dogs or owner surrenders or owner turn-ins. When those dogs are surrendered, as soon as they are processed, they can be, the next person in line can say, I want to adopt that dog. That dog is available immediately after it's relinquished. That dog also has the same rights. It has the same holding period as a stray animal that comes in through by an officer. Mm-hmm. What the problem is that this shelter is not, they think that the Hayden Law was repealed, and they think that they don't have to hold owner turn-ins, but that's not the case. So basically, they've been killing owner surrenders as soon as they are brought in. I myself witnessed, the most recent one that I can think of, it was a Doberman chocolate lab mix. His name was Bronx. As soon as I saw him in line, I knew. I could just tell, okay, this guy is surrendering this dog. So I just went into mode, like save this dog mode. Started videotaping the dog, asking the owner as he's standing there. He's going back and forth, talking to me, talking to the lady at the counter. And I'm saying, hey, how old is your dog? And what kind of dog is it? Is it good with food? Is it good with other dogs? How is it with cats? How is it with kids? And in this particular situation, he said, he's a good dog. I just can't keep him because I have a 1-year-old, and he's just way too energetic. He jumps up. So, my wife wants to keep him, but I'm the one that decided that, we have to surrender him. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm videotaping, I'm taking his photo, and the whole time that he's interacting with Anita Sanchez, she's a counter clerk, never once did he tell this Anita Sanchez that his dog was aggressive. He never once said that his dog has attacked anyone. He never once said anything negative about his dog, just that he could not keep him in fear that the dog was going to jump up on his 1-year-old. That's the only concern that I had heard and videotaped. Well, the next morning, that was on Thursday. On Friday morning, I called the shelter because I could not find Bronx on PetHarbor.com. That's where he should have been listed since he was surrendered on Thursday. He should have been there on Thursday night. Couldn't find him Thursday night. Call Friday. Anita Sanchez answers the phone and tells me, oh, that dog's no longer available. I said, okay, when was his due out date? She said, oh, well, if he was a stray, his due out date would have been 8/1, but he was the owner surrendered, and he requested that his dog be euthanized because his dog was aggressive. So that dog was put down. I said, I said, if you guys killed that dog, you are in violation of the law. She yelled, you need to go read the law again then, and she hangs up on me. So then immediately I went to my computer, did a public record request. When I got my public record request back, it showed that the Anita Sanchez had put in the notes that the owner said the dog was aggressive towards other people, the dog was aggressive towards other cats or dogs, the dog was aggressive towards children. That was her note. And when I got the public record request back, it showed the time that that dog had been killed, and it was at 12:46 p.m. When I went to my video and I clicked properties to see what time the video was shot, that dog was killed 8 minutes after my video. Wow. And after as soon as I found this out, bam, posted it on Facebook. Let everybody know, here, they did it again. And I had Wendy Chin, she's a rescue of Labradors. She posted, I would have rescued that dog. That is a beautiful dog. He was only 1 year old. I would have rescued him. So she clearly is stating that had she seen that dog at the shelter or on Facebook, that's networking, she would have rescued that dog. But that dog didn't have a chance because Anita Sanchez felt the need to lie and say, hey, this dog, the owner told me this dog is aggressive. Well, I'm sorry, Ryan Long and Debbie Schuker, you going by Anita Sanchez's notes violates the law, and you are going to pay for that. Because clearly the law states, it's California Food and Ag Code Section 31754, any animal relinquished by the perpetrated owner that is in the species impounded by public or private shelter shall be held for the same holding period with the same requirements of care applicable to stray dogs and cats in Sections 31108 and 31752, and shall be held for owner redemption or adoption for the entire holding period. And it says except, it says upon relinquishment, the dog may be made available for immediate euthanasia if it had a history of vicious or dangerous behavior documented by the agency charged with enforcing state and local laws. Well, in my public record request that I got back, there was no history of dangerous behavior, no history of a bite of this dog. There was no history of vicious hearings, nothing. So unless, just because the owner says, and if that owner did say it, which he didn't, just because the owner says, oh, he bit someone, I'm sorry, you have to make sure that that was documented by this agency, which is the San Bernardino City Shelter. If there's no documentation of that, you can't go by the owner's, word. This dog could have been his next-door neighbor that it goes and shits on his lawn, goes and barks all night. He brings it in and says, oh, we don't want this dog. How did they prove that it was his dog? 8 minutes later, the dog's dead. What if the owner comes, the next-door neighbor comes in looking for his dog? And he finds out, this person said that it was his dog.
Yeah.
They have, that is the reason for that holding period.
Yeah.
So things like that happen.
So they waited a whole 8 minutes before they euthanized the dog. I've never heard of that happening before. I didn't even know a shelter would do that to euthanize a dog within minutes of it being admitted. I
If
I
you
just
have
can't
an opportunity.
believe that.
Um,
Well, Maria, we're just about out of time here, and my next guest is coming on. So, in closing, I just want to ask you, what is your ultimate goal here? What would you like to see happen at the
Listen,
shelter?
Robert, I have told the sergeant many times, he's actually out on medical leave or something, so I haven't talked to him for a while, but we shoot straight to each other, or at least I shoot it straight to him. I told him, I do not expect you to be a no-kill shelter. All I expect is for you to uphold the law that's set in place for these animals. You guys have those laws. You know the laws. You told me. He pulls out some purple book telling me, this is my Bible. Well, then follow it, dipshit. I'm tired of freaking coming in and having to report things to people on Facebook. I mean, it's like a nonstop. It's a burden for me. It's mentally straining. It's emotionally damaging for me to, see these things. I don't expect them to be no-kill. I expect them to hold the dogs until their legal hold date is up. Don't kill dogs just because they're sick after they're available, 1 day after their available date. Any dog that, can be rescued, they should, if they have room, they should be holding that dog.
So how do you think the problem can be fixed? Do they need to just do they need to take control? Do they need to take control away from the police department and just have someone else run the shelter, or would you like to see the shelter completely shut down?
I think that control should definitely be taken away from the police department. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing as far as the violations. They're not holding their employees accountable. Ryan Long, he needs to get out of there. Debbie Schuker, she needs to get out of there. Leslie Walker, Francisco, Mike Coaster, Anita Sanchez, all of these people that work there and they're complacent, they're lazy, they have no interest in the dogs, they need to retire. They all talk about retiring. We'll do it. Bring in some fresh people that are willing to actually help these dogs.
Yeah.
Okay? I will tell you right now, I can name 3 people that I would keep if I worked there or if I ran that place. Jennifer Venice, Shauna Treadway, and Rosie Pruitt. All the rest of them, they'd be out of there. Huh. And anyone that is listening to this, they're all saying amen.
Okay. So you have a lawyer, and you're going to proceed, I presume, to put with the lawyer to put pressure on the city council and whoever to.
They've already received a letter. The city attorney has already received a letter that they need to tell their client that they need to comply with the laws, and basically letting them know otherwise. No matter what, a lawsuit is going to be filed. That's a no-brainer.
Okay.
But we're giving them we're actually giving them an opportunity to stop violating the law and stop giving us more things to against them. Mm-hmm. Just like I told you earlier, they have 3 officers come in and harass Andrea Nasis. They accuse her of giving the dog a milk bone.
Okay.
They searched all of her belongings. I know you have Nasis. They accused her of giving the dog a milk bone.
Okay.
They searched all of her belongings. I know I know you're running out of time. Everyone, it's going viral on Facebook. Everyone has seen it, and everyone's pissed off about it right now.
All right. And what is your Facebook address where people can go and give you support?
My Facebook address is www.facebook.com/SaveTheSquishies. And that's SaveTheSquishies. And squishies are the squishy part of the pit bulls.
Ah. Well,
Don't ask why.
is the shelter primarily pit bulls?
Primarily pit bulls and chihuahuas.
Yeah.
And I have both of them.
Yeah, they're both great dogs, as is every dog. But well, thank you very much, Maria, for coming on the show and doing what you do. Thank you for caring for the well-being of these animals. And don't go away, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk to the good people at GoPetFriendly.com. So don't go away.